Hello and welcome to a new series of Car File. Now, for those of you that haven't seen the programme before, we like to do things a little differently. Rather than look at lots of different types of cars in a show, each week we focus on one particular style of vehicle, and this week it's off-roaders. And no, not those fragile little shopping trolleys that hairdressers use, we're talking serious 4x4s.
Perfect. Well, we can't all be Crocodile Dundee types, but if you feel you need to up your butch quota, then try this. Grr. It's the Nissan Patrol, and in parts of the world where both the terrain and people can get seriously roughy-tufty, it's seen as being one of the best full-size luxury off-roaders, which on our country roads can lead to a bit of a problem, because they're quite narrow. Hello? Is there anyone around? I can't, It doesn't make any attempt to hide the fact that it is massive. Seriously, you might as well get up in the morning, wander downstairs to the kitchen, put the kettle on and start the house and pull away on the school run with the kids still in bed. It is that big. Well, hey, come on, not everybody lives in the middle of the Andes or the Pyrenees. In fact, if ever you were to get into difficulty off-road, this thing is more than likely to get you out. That said, let's be honest, we are talking mounting the curb outside the wine bar here being the limit of its explorations. We've got electrically adjustable seats in pretty much every direction, air conditioning of course, electric windows, heated mirrors. We've also got a rather nifty electric compass, none of those nasty stick-on round ones. This one up here digitally gives me an indication as to where I'm going. I'd rather know what road I'm on, but it's nice to know I'm going west-ish. If you really are determined to hit the rough stuff, it's got pretty much everything you could need. Obviously it's switchable between two-wheel and four-wheel drive, and there is an extra low-ratio four-wheel drive gearbox if it gets extremely rough. If it gets even rougher than that, you've got a remotely switchable diff lock. Nice. Now let's be honest, I don't suppose anybody ever bought one of these by accident. Oh, they said afterwards. Didn't realise it was an off-roader. Well, obviously it is. And if what you're after is an off-roader capable of carrying 7 people in luxury and comfort and towing the house they came out of, then this is it. Yours for about 32 grand. If though you're after a big luxury car, then you might be looking elsewhere. Still, it's certainly got presence. Right, that's enough macho nonsense. I need to get in touch with my feminine side. Somebody bring me on an MGF, I think.
A lovely long line of pristine new Volvo V70 cross countries, and I'm in Denmark to test drive them. I am driving a car that you'd normally take all the kids to Sainsbury's in through a really big pit of water, and it's fine. It's so fine. Normally when I'm on roads like this, it's in the co-driving seat of a rally car and it's going rah, really, really loud and you can't hear yourself think. Going round this wood off-road track in this Volvo, listen, you can't hear a blooming thing. The engine is so quiet. It's amazing. The thing that I don't like about it, I think, is that I don't know whether you can see, but I'm having to kind of like sort of peer over the bonnet. If you were sat in a normal kind of 4x4 like a Discovery or a Cherokee, you've got a much higher driving position and you can see the road ahead of you much more. With this you're really quite low, and I find it a little bit disconcerting that I can't quite see when I'm driving over this kind of terrain. Traction control, get up this hill, here we go, yay! Is it going to do it? Are we going to do it? You know we're going to do it. Fantastic. That is brilliant. The V70 is a solid drive on the road, as you would imagine from a car like this. But surprisingly, when you're going around the corners, it's ever so light. the steering is light and it tends to wallow a bit. In fact, it oversteers slightly when you're on a road like this. And when I first got in the car, it was ever so slightly unnerving. Yeah, it feels solid, but it's all a bit wibbly wobbly on the top. I was speaking to one of the guys from Volvo earlier on, and he said that they've had to kind of compromise on the stability of the car when it goes around corners to get it right when it's off-road, and I agree with him there. I'm in the middle of Sweden and I'm lost. Where is it? Bastard. Oh, there it is. So that's how you spell it. Right, I know where I'm going now. They've got funny names here. The Cross Country offers great flexibility. Not only does it offer the comfort of a luxury saloon and the safety of a standard V70 estate, but has substantially improved all road abilities, which are previously only possible in an SUV. Ah, it's nice here, isn't it? This is Tulakov and it's just down the road from Bastard. And boy, was I glad to get out of that place. It's full of a right bunch of Swedes. Anyway, as you can see, the shape of the car hasn't changed much. It's a bit wider, a bit further off the ground, and it's got these lovely, well, all right, brown bumpers. Volvo tell me that they've developed these so that when you're off-road, the car doesn't scratch as much as the colour-coordinated bumpers. Anyway, look, I can't stop long. I'm on my way to Smegham now. Sounds a nice place, doesn't it? Wonder what they do there. The new Volvo Cross Country starts at just under 29k on the road, and it's based on the same platform as the V70 estate. The ground clearance is 20.9 centimetres. Who'd have thought it? That is 1 millimetre more than the Cherokee and 1 millimetre less than the Discovery. And who'd have guessed it? Those few millimetres making all the difference. And us girls should know. Safety, always a Volvo strong point, is unrivalled in the cross country, with dual stage airbags, SIPs, side impact protection systems, whips, whiplash protection systems, and the IC, which is an inflatable curtain, which is all provided as standard. What a fantastic day, and I've arrived now in Tylösand, Sweden. And look, there's the beach, and life is a beach, so I'm going to go and lie on it.
First launched almost 20 years ago, the Mitsubishi Shogun rapidly established itself as one of the world's toughest and best-selling 4x4s. Well, now they're launching the third generation of the Shogun, and it encompasses some of the most revolutionary changes in the Shogun saga so far. Why revolutionary? Well, for a start, they've thrown away the chassis. Now, in the past, big 4x4s were traditionally based on engineering that resembled the Forth Bridge, two huge girders that comprise the chassis. Wheels, axles, gearbox, engine and suspension were attached to the underneath of the chassis, and the body was plonked on top. Well, now they've thrown away the whole of that ironmongery and they've built the car as a monocoque, just like a saloon car. Does that mean Shogun's gone soft? Let's find out. Shogun gets new suspension and a new independent back end replaces the old model's solid back axle. This gives better on-road ride and handling, but it doesn't compromise off-road ability either. Certainly it's very comfortable over the rough stuff. And it seems to have just as much grip and ground clearance as the old car. I'm not sure how long these plastic skirts will last though if you go seriously off-road. Very steep slopes admittedly, but it's very dry, and the Shogun has absolutely no difficulty coping with the track they've laid out for us. How good it would be towing a horse box out of a muddy field or a substantial boat up a slimy slipway remains to be seen.
Well, that's it for part one, but do keep watching because right after the break we've got loads more from the gritty world of off-roaders. See you in a bit.
Ah, the old 4x2, stalwart of the building industry. I'll fix that with a bit of 4x2 love. Well, there is some 4x2 in this picture. Can you tell where? Yeah, It's not any of this, it's the car, because it's the new Toyota RAV4, and for the first time there is a two-wheel drive version. Toyota tell us it's not then a 4x4, it's a 4x2. Toyota claimed to have invented the SUV concept with the original RAV4 6 years ago, and who's to argue it was the first soft roader, light, nimble and fast on the road and about as much use off-road as an oven glove to a card sharp. This then moves the whole sector on, because now we want our soft roaders, well, a bit more like our proper off-roaders, apparently. Toyota reckoned that we want a more mature car, a bigger, butcher, bolder car, and that explains why this one is bigger, butcher and bolder. There's another big difference between new and old. Previously, it looked as though they started with the 3-door and the 5-door was, well, a kind of afterthought. They just stretched it a bit and it never really looked right. But now for new RAV4, well, it almost looks as though they started with the 5-door and shortened it to make the 3-door. The whole thing looks, well, a lot more resolved, a lot more finished. Inside, both the 3 and 5-door versions are light, bright and feel well put together, if not exactly inspiring. Performance from the 1.8 and 2-litre engines isn't exactly in the startling category, and it certainly seems to have lost quite a lot, if not all, of that hot hatch feel. It's a shame, really, that Toyota missed an opportunity to move the SUV sector on rather than just jumping on a bandwagon that they invented in the first place. Because the new RAV4, well, it's arguably the best of the SUVs, but only because it does all the same things that the others do, just a little tiny bit better. It doesn't set out and do anything that none of the others can, if you see what I mean. In other words, it's nothing like as fresh and different as the original RAV4 when that hit the market. There is good news financially, though, because it starts at under £14,000, which is very good value. You do get a lot of kit for your money. And the RAV4 is still a very, very good car. It's just nothing like the original RAV4.
Cars tend to fit neatly into their own nice little categories. You know the kind of thing. Compact city cars, sensible saloons, ravishing little roadsters. A car to suit the kind of person you are and the type of life you lead.
And that being the case, it stands to reason if you're a high-powered executive city type, you drive a large luxury saloon.
But what if, when the weekend comes, you fancy getting to grips with nature and sampling a taste of the great outdoors?
What, you?
Well, I know it's not usually my style, but if I had the kind of vehicle that offered me the opportunity to do both, I might just try it.
Impossible. What kind of car can offer superb on-road performance and luxury and have the capabilities to go off-road?
Well, actually, this one can. The BMW X5. So, what's an X5? Well, the name gives it away. Think about it. The 5 from BMW Super Saloon, the 5 Series, and the X from Cross Country. Put the two together and hey presto.
A car to pose around town in, a car that lets you spot that parking space outside Harvey Nicks before anybody else.
Or, if you prefer, a car that can cope with the rough stuff and loves nothing better than thrashing its way through a nice bit of mud. Whatever name they may give it, I reckon it looks like an estate on stilts, which maybe doesn't sound very flattering because it is actually a rather handsome and refined creature. The wheel arches have a very subtle flare and they smoothly merge into the gentle curves of the body. And just to remind you, and of course the neighbours, about the off-road bit, you get beefed up bumpers, neat fog lamps, discreet running boards, nice fat tyres and some extra ground clearance.
The interior, as you'd expect from a BMW, is extremely civilised. The instrument panel doesn't favour the driver, so that one's passenger can take care of the stereo, the air conditioning and that satellite navigation thing. Everything is superbly positioned and of course it's all superb quality. And there are no complaints about the driving position either. In fact, these seats are more comfortable than the sofa in my living room. There's plenty of room for the driver, for the passengers, and for the most important bit of all, the shopping. Out on the road, well, it might be a large, powerful vehicle, but it's surprisingly easy to drive. The extra height means you get a great view of everything around you, but it doesn't come with any of the rock and roll that you normally associate with off-roaders.
And the performance from that V8 engine also reflects that. 0 to 60 takes just 7.5 seconds, and it easily cruises to a top speed of 128 miles per hour.
The steering really does feel very direct and it responds without any fuss or any bother. The 5-speed automatic gearbox does all the work for you. And when you add to that a very, very comfortable ride, you'll find it impossible to believe that you aren't in a top-class saloon.
And if that's not enough for you, then there's a sport chassis available too, if you feel the need for a marginal improvement in handling for a slight reduction in comfort.
It probably won't surprise you to discover that 95% of people who own off-roaders never take them off-road. Let's be serious. When the X5 goes on sale at the end of the year, it's going to cost around £47,000. If you'd spent that much money, would you want it to get bumped and bashed and covered in mud? I don't think so. Well, the good thing is, though, that this X5 isn't mine. And remember, I'm rather keen on getting to grips with nature.
Off-road, the X5 proves its worth. The permanent four-wheel drive system directs most of the power to the rear wheels, so lack of grip and wheel spin is reduced to a minimum.
Now, because of BMW's connection with Land Rover, it will be no surprise to you to discover that quite a few of their gadgets and gizmos are on the X5. I'm talking about things like hill descent control. Now, this system, rather unsurprisingly, controls the engine's speed when you're on a very steep slope. It allows it to creep down at a steady 6 miles per hour. All you do is flick a switch just down here. You let the engine do the work for you. You don't panic. You don't even need to use your feet.
The only limiting factor is the 180mm ground clearance and the compromise on road tyres. But hey, you can't have everything now, can you?
Oh no, look how dirty it is. Why would you want to do that? You see, what buyers want is a vehicle that looks the part and has the off-road capabilities. Heaven forbid we should actually want to try it.
Well, you can speak for yourself, because some of us will relish the challenge of discovering what the X5 is really capable of. You should try it sometime.
Oh well, that's the beauty of it, I suppose. Whether you're looking for on-road performance
or you want to have fun on an off-road course, then the X5 will suit you down to the ground.
So here we go, and picture the scene. Editor comes out of his office and he says, Rob, we want you to test a brand new car. And I'm thinking, fantastic, this is my big break. What am I going to get, a Merc, BM, oh, it might even be a Porsche. So I meet the crew at the location, and it's this. It's a Land Rover. But having said that, it's got shiny red paint, alloy wheels, and it's big. It might be all right. Let's give it a go. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm far more used to driving your GTIs, RS turbos, that sort of thing. And the first thing you notice coming from a small hot hatch into one of these, stating the obvious, but it's just how big it is. It looks huge from the outside, but when you get in, it's like Doctor Who's TARDIS. And that's giving my age away a bit there. But certainly I wouldn't want to try my chances in a parking competition with one of these. And I struggle with a Cinquecento. Now, whether you're into cars or not, you hear the name Land Rover and you think of serious off-road vehicles. But having said that, in the 10 years since the Discovery was launched, the company have obviously put a lot of time and effort into making this feel a lot more car-like. And I'm really impressed just how stable it is on the corners. Even some of the fast bends, there's hardly any body roll. But engine and gearbox, oh, I mean, 0 to 60, it feels longer than Continental Drift. And the gap between first and second, it's that big. Even I could fall in it, and I've got size 13 feet. But I know what you're saying. Come on, Rob, it's not an RS turbo, it's not a hot hatch. It's a big, purposeful off-road vehicle. So I think to do it some justice, we want to find something a bit bumpy. So will I go and have a scout round for some off-road action, so to speak? I'll give you a few facts about the car. The new Discovery is slightly longer and wider than the older model, and it's significantly taller than most of its rivals. And even without bull bars and running boards, it still looks really tough. Alloy wheels now come as standard on all models, and with a few other subtle body refinements, the Discovery looks a lot closer to the flagship four-wheel drive, the Range Rover. Inside there's absolutely bags of room, and the finish and fit of things like the dashboard, door panels, they all give a really good high quality feel. This model features a 5-speed manual gearbox, but a sport switchable automatic box is also available. Other features on this XS model include air conditioning, half leather heated seats, leather covered steering wheel, and a fairly impressive stereo system. Under the bonnet there's an all-new 5-cylinder diesel engine which returns about 23 miles to the gallon and gives out around 137 brake horsepower, which you all know what I think of that. And of course the Discovery is available with Land Rover's legendary V8. This is more like it, something to get your teeth into. Now alright, these roads might not be the Himalayas, but they certainly have some of the lesser four-wheel drive struggling. But not this thing, just as out on the open road it feels really solid. And it's a bit like driving a tank, I guess, which I have done. And that's all down to, say, the developments that I mentioned earlier. There's electronic traction control, electronic suspension levelling, all sorts of things that kick in to really keep your feet or your wheels firmly on the ground. Now, speaking of electronic traction control, or ETC as it's known, when you read the manual for this thing, you'd be convinced that Land Rover are absolutely obsessed with acronyms. And I've got my notes here, because I can't learn them all, far too many. We've got, well, this is just on the first page, ACE, SLS, ETC, HDC and EBD, which do all manner of things, but make it PDQ, they do not. It's still far too slow for me. Well, I'll tell you what, as disappointed as I was at the start of the day, I'm really impressed with this thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd much prefer a GTI. I think something more in keeping with my boyish good looks. But no, it's really good. I can't believe how well it handled on the open road. And on this stuff, well, it just it feels like a tank. In fact, I think I could invade a small country in one of these. But the driving position as well, I love it. Surveying all that you own. In fact, I think I might just go and have a drive up, see if I can find some poachers on my land.